lot of awareness created around human trafficking these days, which impacts all transportation, truck stops, restaurants in some instances, hotels, unfortunately, in many instances, airlines, etc. So we asked Richard Barrett-Cuetara to take a look at things and to bring us up to speed. Rick is a partner at Thompson Co. out of their Dallas office. His practice focuses on civil litigation, arbitration, and complex commercial disputes. Rick also has a significant practice in the hospitality industry that he has developed over the last 20 to 25 years. So we're very fortunate to have him with us and have him back. Welcome, Rick. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a nice round of applause to Rick Barrett.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, the invite. It's a real honor to be here. You know, this topic is interesting to me. Steve knows when the Dallas hosted the Super Bowl, I wrote an article about human trafficking back then, but it was a very small level, and it talked about the prostitution ring, what was happening in Dallas, what they were expecting because of the Super Bowl. So when I was approached about speaking, I thought of an interesting topic, and I wanted to do a kind of a deeper dive on what's happening in the human trafficking arena. So my topic name is One Sin is Too Many, Stop Human Trafficking. Now, most people, and I didn't know where until I started researching this, is that the Department of Justice has said that Houston, Texas is the epicenter, one of the largest hubs for human trafficking in the United States. And then Houston is the largest hub in the state of Texas for human trafficking. So there is a problem in this state. There's a problem in our industry. I have a 34-page slide presentation. I'm not going to go through all of it. As I told Steve, I wanted to really give the audience a lot of details so that you can look at this after the fact and to understand what trafficking is, labor trafficking, sexual trafficking, and some of the case law. So that's what I'm talking about today. The big picture is human trafficking nationwide, and we're talking about labor trafficking and sex trafficking, and also the warning signs, what hotel employees should be looking out for. And providing tips from Homeland Security and the American Hotel and Lodging Association. And then I'm going to discuss some cases and let you see what has occurred at some decided opinions, and then some live cases that are here in Texas. And a unique case that talks about how prostitutes who are the Jane Does are now being perceived in a different fashion than they historically have been perceived. So let's talk about what is labor trafficking and some statistics. Down at the bottom, you see there's a definition of forced labor from the Department of Homeland Security. And I like to read this because this is what is defined in the industry. When individuals are compelled against their will to provide work or service through the use of force, fraud, or coercion. And you'll see in the top line up there that about 25 million people worldwide are involved in forced labor. And likely victims are people that have unstable job backgrounds, their immigration status is unclear. But this is kind of the overall macro view of labor trafficking. So now I want to move to the next page and briefly talk about what is sex trafficking. And as you look in the middle there, the Texas Attorney General says that in Texas, labor trafficking, there's about 234,000 incidences happening, and there are 79,000 victims of minor and youth sex trafficking at a given time. Now, sex trafficking, these in the young Jane Does are vulnerable youth. They don't have stable family. They don't have a stable social network. And those are the candidates that the sexual trafficker grooms. And what the sexual trafficker has done is isolate the victim. and is controlling all the movements of the victim, takes away their identification. They don't have any passports. So you have literally a control scenario where the trafficker is taking away basically the identity of the individual. Now, this next page is briefly giving you a view of what is happening at the hotel level. And the hotel industry has responded. The American Hotel Lodging Association in 2019 started promoting online publications for training of hotel employees. It was produced in conjunction with Marriott and ECPAT and also Polaris, which are nonprofit organizations that deal with providing assistance for trafficking, whether it's labor trafficking or sexual trafficking. But the American Hotel Lodging Association does provide indicators of trafficking activity. So I would encourage all the hoteliers and also the restaurateurs that are here today to go to these websites to take a look at what is out there. Now, let's talk a little bit about what are the red flags of trafficking. Remember, we're talking trafficking right now, which is labor and sex trafficking. But one of the first things that the Department of Homeland Security is identified is, does the person appear malnourished, disoriented, confused, and shows kind of, signs of mental and physical abuse. And one of the key incidences is that the Jane Doe is really defers to somebody else. They don't have their own self-identity, and they don't even speak up for themselves. And one of the key flags is, does this person, does it appear that they're coached as to what to say if they're confronted by hotel staff? And, these individuals that are involved in trafficking and they're Jane Does, they don't really have personal items. Okay, they're kind of nomads. Now, let's talk about signs that a sex trafficker has checked into your property. And this is from the Department of Homeland Security, the Trafficking Toolkit. We all use do not disturb signs in the morning, generally, if we sleep in. But the traffickers, they use these do not disturb signs a lot, all day, a couple days in a row, or they won't allow hotel employees to come into the room. That's a sign that something's a little odd. And the trafficker, who's the person who brings in the Jane Does, is the person who reserves multiple rooms. And in this scenario, the hotel staff knows who the individual is and knows who is leaving the room and going to the room. And they also know that this is happening at odd hours, whether it's midnight to 8 a.m. And other signs of the sex trafficker is in the hotel is the smell of bodily fluids and musk, that there's a refusal to allow cleaning of the room. There's also a request for, new sheets, towels, and also if there's excessive cash in the room, that should tell the hotel employees that something's going on. And this is when the hoteliers have really dropped the ball in this area. So what is Texas's perspective on labor trafficking? Well, you'll see that Texas has outlined several ideas through the Texas Attorney General's office. The worker is not free to leave the room. The person either lives at the premises or is transferred by a manager. And, I'm sure over the years we've all driven to work and we see a vacant lot and there are a bunch of people that are congregating in that lot. Those are probably labor traffickers that are being used, and the wages that these folks get paid is very, very low. And the trafficker controls the workers' compensation completely. Now, I wanted to talk about some cases. I've cited 4 cases, 2 federal cases and 2 state cases. And so I'm going to get into those, but I want you to see what's been reported in opinions. And then I'm going to get into a case that is live here in the state of Texas. So you can see the kind of allegations, see who are the targets in this issue. And I'm going to fast forward to the S&Y case. Okay, this is a case that impacts the franchisors. And you can see there were 2 victims sued the hotel owners, the operators, the franchisees, and the franchisors. Who were the targets in this lawsuit? It was Marriott International, Wyndham Hotels and Resorts, Residence by Marriott, La Quinta Holdings, Best Western, Choice Hotels, and Intercontinental Hotel Group. Big players. So let's just look at some of the signs that were of sex trafficking that was referenced in this case. And you'll see that the sex trafficker wanted to have rooms that were near exit doors. There were cash payments for the rooms by the sex traffickers. As I mentioned earlier, refusal of housekeeping services by those that were using the rooms. Excessive use of condoms in the room. Good Lord, if you're a hotel employee, you go in a room and you see this, you should be notifying your management, who should be notifying law enforcement. But these are the allegations in this case. And also there were allegations that the hotel staff observed that 2 Jane Does and their traffickers in the hotel. The Jane Does were being escorted by the traffickers. And this is what's really surprising. There were pleas and screams from the Jane Does asking for help, yelling from the rooms, and nothing was done. And there were multiple men coming into the rooms all day long without luggage. So if your staff sees this, they need to report it immediately. But there was also one thing that was interesting is that their online reviews of these hotels mentioned sex trafficking and prostitution at the hotel level. So these were the signs. Now, I want to talk about some of the causes of action, the legal claims that were raised against the franchisors and the operator and franchisee. Quite a few there. One was the violation of the Federal Trafficking Victims Protection Reauthorization Act, TEFRA. And then there was a similar cause of action under Florida statute, but it also claims of premises liability, breach of contract, negligent hiring, entrustment and supervision, negligent rescue, unjust enrichment, aiding and abetting, negligent infliction of emotional distress, assault and battery. Now, the district court in this case only ruled on the TEFRA claim, stating that the alleged victims, now, I don't know the outcome of this case, but in this case, the court said that the victims had plausibly alleged that the franchisor had control over these hotels. That's a huge allegation against the franchisor, that the franchisor knowingly benefited from sex trafficking, that the franchisor knew or should have known of alleged victim sex trafficking, and that the franchisor was the joint employer and in an agency relationship with hotels where sex trafficking was occurring. That's not good for the industry, and it reflects that things need to change. Now, I want to go to another case, and this is really an interesting case. And this is a case out of Wisconsin. It's a live case. It's before the Wisconsin Supreme Court. But the facts are that a young lady, Jane Doe, was 17. She was, a prostitute, so-called involved in crimes, and she ended up going to the trafficker's home, took an Uber, and she killed him. She burnt the house down, and she was charged with first-degree murder. Now, in Wisconsin, there's a statute, and it's 939.46(1)M. And it says that if you're a victim of sex trafficking You can use that as an affirmative defense if you're charged with a crime. So think about that. Jane Doe shoots, kills her trafficker, and now she's saying, under the statute, I have an affirmative defense because I'm a byproduct of being a minor, and I was being trafficking under the Wisconsin statute. Now, the Wisconsin Supreme Court, and I should say that this case, the appellate decision was in 2021. It's now before the Wisconsin Supreme Court, and they're going to decide a novel issue. Is a victim, or let me back up, is a Jane Doe who is a prostitute involved in a criminal operation, can she use a statute as an affirmative defense to a first-degree murder charge? Now think about that. That's unbelievable. The tables have kind of turned on how courts are viewing Jane Does. You know, they used to be viewed as prostitutes and part of an illegal crime. But now this case is saying, wait a second, this Jane Doe could be a victim. And this is what this case stands for. So it's going to be interesting to see where the Supreme Court rules on this case. Now, this next case, you'll see I put in red, says the following: facts and allegations based on live pleadings filed as of 8/24/21. So this is the name of the case, In re Jane Does versus Salesforce.com et al. It's here in Harris County District Court. There's the docket. Now, a reason I wanted to talk about this case is because it nails allegedly many, many brands. Who are the hotel brands? Choice, Wyndham, Hyatt Franchising, Holiday Inn Hospitality, Marriott International, Radisson Hospitality, and their various brands, whether it's a Comfort Inn at Roadway, La Quinta, Hyatt Regency Houston, Holiday Inn Houston Southwest, Courtyard by Marriott Houston, Sugarloaf, and the Country Inn and Suites by Radisson. Name brands, they're all named defendants. Interestingly, this case also, the Jane Does sued two technology companies, Backpage.com and Salesforce.com. And I didn't realize that those internet companies were the way the trafficker would set up appointments for his clientele to meet the Jane Does. And the FBI busted Backpage.com, but they're parties to this litigation. And in this case, franchisors were sued, franchisees were sued, as well as the hotel operators. Now, let's see. Okay, one of the things on this page, these are all allegations, but Choice, they allege, did not enforce the ECPAT USA training modules or educate the staff. And we talked about the American Hotel Lodging Association in 2019 did this program to expose the hotel industry to what to look for. This case says that Choice was not did not follow the ECPAT guidelines. And in this case, just like the other one we talked, there were multiple employees observed and acknowledged signs of sex trafficking. They failed to help, there was a lot of foot traffic at the hotels. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but signs of sex trafficking, excessive towels used to clean up the rooms, refusing housekeeping services, requesting rooms on bottom floor or near the door. These are all signs. Now, this case goes into, well, what is the knowledge that Choice had? And their Choice, they allege, was aware of all this. They had actual knowledge from the franchisee upstreaming the information to the franchisor. And as you will see at the bottom, upon information and belief, the franchisee relayed all this knowledge of sex trafficking on the premises to the franchisor and reported this information to the franchisor. And also on this page, a little more information. Upon information and belief, the franchisee relayed knowledge of sex trafficking on the premises and reported Jane Doe's sex trafficking to the franchisor, and that is a serious allegation against a major hotel chain. Now, there are also claims that there's an agency relationship between the franchisee and the franchisor, primarily because of online bookings, inspection of facilities, and operation and change and things of that nature. I'm not going to go through all the elements here, but I do want to say that they have a claim here that the franchisor failed to exercise reasonable care. And again, upon information and belief, the franchisee reported the signs of Jane Doe's sex trafficking to the franchisor, but nothing changed. Nothing happened. So this case also stands for the interesting status that Chapter 98 of the Civil Practice and Remedies Code in Texas is being used as a cause of action. And one deals with liability for trafficking of persons. Interestingly, under Chapter 98, if you're a shareholder or a member of an LLC and you have knowledge, you could be personally liable for the acts that occurred at the property level. Chapter 98A deals with liability for compelled prostitution and certain promotion of prostitution. Causes of action, the legal claims against the two technology companies, both were under Section 98A and 98 of the Texas Civil Practice and Remedies Code. The hotel defendants were sued under Chapter 98, also for negligence, gross negligence, and recklessness, willful and wanton conduct. Obviously, you start alleging claims of that nature and you get punitive damages. So what have we learned from this? Well, the hospitality industry is a target. Franchisors are a target. Franchisees are a target. Independent hotel owners are targets, as well as the franchisors' management companies that do the operations for a property, and independent hotel companies. So the lessons learned is that we need to stop human trafficking, and we need to stop sex trafficking and labor trafficking. We need to educate the staff and report to the law enforcement. When in doubt, contact law enforcement. You know, we're the eyes and ears of the hotel, of reporting these heinous crimes to law enforcement. So what has been done in Texas? Well, in 2021, Governor Abbott signed Texas House Bill 390, and it's effective January 1, 2022. The Texas Hotel and Lodging Association has an advisory out. I would encourage you to go to their website, but this bill is important because it says if you have 10 or more rooms, you have to go through a bunch of training dealing with understanding what human trafficking is, sex trafficking is, and law enforcement can come to your property 5 days a week from 9 to 5. So, and also, Texas Hotel and Lodging Association goes through at their website an itemization of House Bill 390. And I would encourage all of the operators here to go through the House Bill 390 and implement this requirement under Texas law that was effective January 1st. You have to have training. It has to be at least 20 minutes, and it has to be approved by the Texas AG or one of their pre-approved training programs. And so, in summary, we are the eyes and ears of human trafficking, which includes sex trafficking and labor trafficking. And we have an obligation for mankind to report that to law enforcement. Your staff on the ground level should report any suspicious activity to management, who should then upstream that to law enforcement. I would like to say that we're a proud allied member of the Texas Hotel and Lodging Association, and I want to thank you for your time. If you have any questions, let's have it.
Hey, thank you. That's interesting information. Thanks for all the work you put into that. I have a question.
Yes.
Imagine that. So we worked really hard after Mandalay Bay to encourage everybody in the hotels to get into their guest rooms every day, right? Occupied rooms.
Right.
But then COVID hit. So we kind of, that ship sailed, right? And a lot of people now it's housekeeping upon request. But I'm still of the opinion we should be getting in our guest rooms every day for all the reasons you just mentioned. And it's not just trafficking, it's meth labs, it's credit card fraud, right? I mean,
Right.
when a guest checks out and there's 48 Amazon packages left behind, that's kind of a telltale sign.
Yes.
Yeah? So those reasons, I'm just wondering, and the other piece I think of the puzzle is the do not disturb sign. My opinion is that it's not a legal preclusion. And I'm curious if everybody in the room feels that way as well. My perspective is it's a request by the guest for privacy, and we can honor it as a customer care type perspective. Do you see it that way?
To a degree. I mean,
Okay.
I think, you know, a 1-day do not disturb sign, you know, okay, but now you go into day 2, and if there's any other telltale signs of activity in the in that location, where the room's located, is it kind of away from the front office, kind of hidden? I think day 2, yeah, you have a right to go in there and say, we want to do housekeeping. And if they decline it and say, we don't want you to come in, that's a red flag. Get a hold of your management and upstream it to law enforcement.
Yeah, I think that's the approach. And some hotels, they say, even if we just need to empty the trash, you know, we're going to come in every
Right.
day. Yeah. Carrie, do you mind do you guys have a policy around all your hotels? Or?
We went similar what was done at Mandalay Bay.
Yep.
And a lot of it wasn't only about trafficking, but it was about the issues we were having with drug and the fact that they were running drug labs out of the rooms. So we have the right, and we'll go in, and if we have issues, it's exactly what we do is get with the authorities if we have any pushback at all. But our approach and policy is that we will at least remove trash and dirty towels upon our request of going into the room.
How many days would you go without going into the room?
No more than 2 days.
Yeah.
Even if there's a D&D sign, you guys are going to go in. Yeah, right. Yeah, I think we're seeing that. Anybody have a different view? Oh, one second. I just want to make sure everybody can hear you. People wonder why I'm so skinny. Here you go.
One of my questions is, or a couple of the challenges I've seen is that, for instance, in California, where we dealt with hotels, law enforcement would not act on large industrial boxes of condoms and those type of signals that you would call the police out, say, hey, listen, we got signs over here of this activity, and law enforcement will not act on it. So that's some of the challenges we run into from a legal perspective. Another question I have is, at what year did you see the uptick in regards to the litigation against hospitality?
You know, I'll be honest with you. When I wrote my article back when the Super Bowl was in Dallas, 2011, I think, I knew it was going on, but I didn't realize how much was happening in the litigation until really just working on this project, to be honest with you. I was stunned at the amount of litigation that's happening nationwide. We tried to pick out some of the high-level cases to show that all brands are at risk.
Absolutely, because I'm actually going to get deposed on a case going all the way back to 2009. They're going back that far and stuff
Right.
like that. And it's like, and it wasn't as, how should I say, prevalent back then as it is from the training aspects and everything now.
If anybody is bored and has nothing to do, there's 34 pages here, and there's some of the cases talk about the acts of the Jane Does was going back to like 2010 through 2016. So this has been around for a long time.
Oh, Cliff, one sec.
Yes, sir.
Any of these cases that you've looked at, are they upper upscale luxury hotels, or is this as we would expect, all kind of at the extended stay and economy segment?
Mostly from what I have read is extended stay and economy. Now, I haven't seen a case against, a major brand like Ritz-Carlton. I haven't seen that. And that may happen, I don't know, at that high level. There's a little more sophistication, but the major brands have all been hit. Now, what's surprising is that, the brands as opposed to independents. I used to think, well, it's primarily an independent, unflagged property that was really the right venue, not the right, was the venue for the human trafficking issue. And I'm just stunned at how many brands are involved in the litigation, the allegations. I mean, you've got the franchisee who's upstreaming information to the franchisor. The franchisor is not acting on it. These are the type of allegations. And if that's the case, that's serious.
It is serious. And listen, these are the top plaintiffs firms in the country that are bringing these
Yes.
cases. These are strong people, and they've got lots of money.
But I
Lots
would
of high
encourage, if anybody's really interested, is that Texas case that I provided the case name and the docket number. They just filed their 6th amended petition in August. That case is unbelievable, the allegations. I probably touched 1/4 of what the claims are, or not the claims are correct, but just the factual detail they went into was just unbelievable.
Yep. Question.
I understand why they're going after the franchisor. I guess the question would be, is on what line do they have a responsibility? They usually set a standard of which we as an operator and a franchisee have to abide by. But from that standpoint on, other than the reservation coming into the system, where that's what I'm trying to figure out, is where do they fall from a responsibility perspective?
Well, the allegations in the 4 cases that I've reviewed is that the franchisee upstreamed information to the franchisor of sex trafficking that was happening at the hotel, that there was prostitution and drug use and things of that nature. And the franchisor just kind of deaf, dumb, and mute, didn't do anything, didn't get proactive in dealing. So, the operator, franchisor, franchisee, if they don't upstream information to the franchisor, I guess you could argue the franchisor wasn't aware of what was going on at the property level. But let's face it, when you have online reviews talking about Marriott has sex trafficking, known for sex trafficking at XYZ property, known prostitution at XYZ property, did the franchisor know that?
Just to be clear, that was a hypothetical. but
Yeah, this is hypothetical.
No. Yeah, you get it. Yeah, right. Yeah. But no, that's right. But they're all the real issue, as Rick pointed out, is the joint employer, right? They're trying
Right.
to tie the franchise because that's where they think the money is.
And the plaintiff's lawyers are trying to connect the fact that the franchisee has to operate reports sent to the franchisor, paying the franchisor fees, and that link is the agency relationship, and the fact that the allegations are that the franchisee was upstreaming what was happening at the property level to the franchisor, and nothing was being done. No implementation of a franchise dictum, stop it, we need to do something.
Yeah, and the reservation, all of that would tie
Right.
into that and demonstrate, how they profited from that. Huh?
One really good resource you guys might want to look at for training is the Ask for Angela initiative that came out of London about 2016, 2017 as a way to protect women, protect anybody. And the policy is they put little signs up in the restrooms and all over the place that says, if you're in a bar, if you're on a date that's going wrong, if you are being sex trafficked, it says if you can go to a bar and if you ask for Angela, it's essentially a code that I need help.
Right.
And they will help extract you from that situation. They will remove you from the premises, no questions asked. And the bars are training on that. And Dallas is working with the Dallas Restaurant Association is working with the Dallas Police Department to roll that out across hotels and F&B venues in Dallas under the same name, Ask for Angela, putting signs up. I mean, if we're going to have signs in the men's room that says, drinking is bad for pregnant people, then we can put up a sign that says, if you're in trouble, ask for Angela, that's drawn in crayon. So I'd encourage you guys to look at that because it's really interesting initiative.
Thanks for sharing that.
And also want to just remind the audience that the Texas Hotel Lodging Association is a great resource. It's the largest hotelier association in the country, and they have all of this information that you can obtain from them. So I would encourage you to contact them.
And he's one of them sitting right there.
Okay.
He's brand new counsel with TH&LA with Scott Josloff's group and Justin Bragdiel.
Oh,
So
Hey, say hi.
knock yourself out.
I know Scott's supposed to be watching this.
Yeah, I think. Hello, Scott.
supposedly.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Justin is. Hey, Scott.
Rick, thank you very much.
Thank
It's
you.
lunchtime. Appreciate it. Great